Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Culture Report. I'm Antonia Velez. The trial against Sean Diddy Combs continued this week. The artist, producer, and executive was charged last year with sex trafficking and other federal offenses. The 2024 indictment alleges that Combs led a criminal enterprise to facilitate his exploitation of women and protect his reputation. Now, this week, former girlfriend Cassie Ventura took the stand to deliver emotional testimonies, saying Combs abused her physically and sexually for years, and claiming she was forced into drug-fueled encounters with male prostitutes for days at a time. Combs has denied all allegations. Now, Diddy may not be able to take the stage right now, but his likeness, along with Luigi Mangioni's, are on their way to becoming a new original musical. The website for Luigi the Musical says the story features the two men as roommates in jail, inspired by their real-life situation being incarcerated in the same facility. A statement from the producer says the musical isn't meant to celebrate violence, and instead, it aims to use satire to explore why the Mangione case has become so popular and launched him into the spotlight. Performances are set for June, and so far, all of them are sold out. And it's a big week for Latin music. For the first time ever, Spanish-language albums filled the top 2 spots of the Billboard 200 chart. At number 2 is the new 111 Expantia album by Fuerza Regida, which is a group that makes regional Mexican music. And as a shock to no one, Bad Bunny's Debí Tirar Más Fotos made its way back to number 1. The Puerto Rican artist also recently announced dates for that album's world tour, but American fans hoping to see him are out of luck. There's not a single U.S. show scheduled. And there's always a lot to discuss when it comes to entertainment and pop culture. Recently, everyone seems to be talking about the Sinners movie and the newest Black Mirror season. I had a chat with Rachel Krause, 9 News reporter, film enthusiast, and fellow media consumer about both of those and other things we're enjoying at the moment.
Are you ready to talk about some media?
I'm always ready to talk about media.
Amazing. I can't wait. So let's start with Sinners. I know that you watched it.
Absolutely.
You love it.
Yes.
I have not. So
You haven't seen it yet?
No, I've tried. I really, really trust. It's because I have not had time, but I've heard that the movie itself is shot beautifully.
Yes.
It touches on very important topics related to Black history and the origin of the blues. So could you give us kind of, no spoilers, a quick breakdown of like the cultural, historical significance of that?
Yeah, I mean, the movie is set in the South, you know, very much in the era of segregation and Jim Crow and very, very tough times. And you've got Michael B. Jordan playing twins, kind of circa the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap route, where he's playing both characters, which is fun to see. And they are trying to set up a juke joint. They had made it pretty well in Chicago when they had broken away, and they came back to the South to their roots to set up a joint that that Black folks could comfortably come to and enjoy and appreciate the music and the culture and the cooking and have a place of their own together. And they go and enlist, I believe it's a cousin, it might be a friend. It's been a couple weeks now since I've seen it, but they enlist the help of a very, very, very talented preacher's son who is able to play the blues like beautifully. And this is played by Miles Caton, and he's absolutely lovely. I would love to see the music that comes out of this kid because, my goodness, does he have a voice? He's powerhouse. But you have all these themes happening, and amidst of this, horror ensues.
Yeah, so I was going to touch on that. There's like fantasy going on as well. Like there's some vampire action.
There is some vampire
right?
action, yes.
Okay, okay.
Things happen. I don't want to give it away for anybody. It wasn't a scary movie and that I don't remember jumping at all, but like the way they weave the horror together.
Keeps you on your toes.
Keeps you on your toes, keeps you really very engaged as an audience member. It's a very original movie. And the ending was just beautiful.
I love that. Okay, good to hear. Another thing, this I have watched, and I'm a huge fan. Black Mirror.
Yes.
The new episode came out, or the new season rather.
Yes.
And there's so many episodes that I love and I think are really well made. But my favorite so far is Eulogy. And I had you watch it for this episode.
Absolutely.
So I want your thoughts first, but I would just like to preface and say that if anyone wants a good cry and a little, you know, mind-boggling action, that's the perfect episode for that. What did you think from like a cinephile you are kind of from a
Absolutely,
from a
yeah.
cinephile's perspective. What did you think?
You know, you have the futuristic elements and the questionable technology that Black Mirror loves to bring into its pieces and really kind of make you question something that sounds like a really good idea until you see it in place. And I thought the way that they weave the storyline together with the memories was really heartbreaking to watch Paul Giamatti experience as his character, and it was just so beautifully done. And you watch his character go from like this journey of like being a cranky old man to being like, I don't want to help with this project, to really seeing him like entirely reevaluate that relationship in his like previous years.
I thought the writing choices were insane. The like director's choices were insane. The cinematography, the concept of being able to reevaluate past relationships through images and being able to dive into photos and dissect moments, I thought was really incredibly well done. All right, let's move on to some music. What are you listening to? What are you loving?
I am loving Doechii.
Of course.
I am loving her entire new album. There is a reason she got so much attention at the Grammys, very well deserved from this Florida rapper. I'm so excited to see what she does next.
Same.
The way she's reinvented Gautier's song, Somebody I Used to Know, into Anxiety, which, is so
good.
Fantastic.
So
I could
good.
listen to it on repeat. The music video is stunningly shot. And she's got these amazing songs like Denial is a River. I can never stop laughing when I hear it.
Same. I love it. I think she's a lyrical genius, and her story, like her personal story, is also incredibly inspiring. And so we love her. What about books? What are you reading, or what have you read? What would you recommend as a book lover, which you also are?
I definitely am. I just finished one called The Passion Project, which is kind of a lovely little beach read, very fast, plot-moving book.
We love that.
Yeah, so if you're looking for something that's a little bit on the romance, a little bit on the friendship, and a little bit about a girl kind of picking up her life, she befriends this guy she was supposed to have gone on a date on and had ghosted him and blew him off, and he ends up helping her find her passion, and they kind of go try new hobbies all around New York City together, and she kind of builds herself back up through that. So it's just
sounds like a lovely read.
It's a very lovely read. It's perfect for poolside. It's very fast moving, so I really enjoyed that. And then I feel like I can never stop talking about the book The Wedding People. And trigger warning for folks who are, you know, into those self-harm topics and trying to steer away from that. This is maybe not the book for you, but it is the book for so many people. There's a reason it was a finalist for Book of the Month's Club for a Book of the Year finalist, essentially. So it looks at this woman who goes to this beautiful inn on the seaside that she'd always wanted to go stay with her husband. Well, her husband has left her, so she goes to the inn to take her own life. And when she gets there, she realizes the entire inn has been rented out by a wedding party. And she finds herself participating in a lot of these activities alongside the bride. It is lovely. It is funny. It is heartwarming. It is inspiring. It's fantastic.
That kind of reminds me of The Midnight Library. Have you read that?
I have not. I've heard great things about it.
You should read that. Also, trigger warning, but it's very inspiring and uplifting, and just gives you kind of a cool, refreshing perspective on life and opportunity. And yes, we love optimism. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. We always love your input and listening to what you're enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And a historic book is currently making its way across the country, one that reminds us of a very painful time in the US while teaching lessons that are still relevant today. Erasure, or the Book of Names, holds the names of 125,000 people with Japanese ancestry who were placed in internment camps without due process during World War II. In southeastern Colorado, 7,000 Japanese Americans were imprisoned at a camp called Amache. 80 years later, the Book of Names is traveling across states, creating an opportunity for people to honor their loved ones by placing a small blue stamp under their names. Stacy Shigaya, whose parents were in the camps, says that despite how many years it's been since the internment, people still haven't learned.
I don't talk about it because I want people to feel sorry for me or my family. I talk about it because people need to be educated so that it doesn't happen to them or their loved ones, because it is right now.
The book will eventually end up on display at the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles, where historians hope it will teach lessons for years to come. And there are many books full of lessons from the past and present that are being banned across the country. We're living in a time when history is simultaneously being erased and repeated. So it's crucial to discuss the importance of the books that tell those stories, as well as the stories themselves. I sat down with Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, an author, professor, and anti-racist scholar, to discuss why he chooses to write what he does, as well as what influences the decisions he makes as an author in the current socio-political climate.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the very people who are trying to conserve racism are also the very people who are trying to ban books about racism.
For anyone who may not be familiar with your work, what is it you write about?
I try to document the history of racism, particularly in the United States, and then also use really the lens of history to define racist and even what it means to be anti-racist, or ultimately to seek to create more equity and justice, for us all.
Why, as a writer, did you make the decision to write about these things? Why is it important to you that we have books that discuss these topics?
For me, what caused me to specifically want to study racism is because it's impacting us all, either directly or indirectly. And there's so many people who are suffering as a result of racism. And there's so many people who don't necessarily can't see racism because either they've never been taught what racism looks like, or they've been taught to see racism in 2025 and the way it looks in 1965. And I also think it's important to also convey to individuals how they themselves can be a part of the solution, can be a part of confronting and ultimately hopefully abolishing racism.
Your newest publication, Malcolm Lives, is written for younger readers specifically. Why, as an author, did you choose to cater this content to younger generations? Why do you think it's important that younger people read about these things?
I don't think it's a coincidence that the very people who are trying to conserve racism are also the very people who are trying to ban books about racism. And so for me, as I witness that relationship, it conveys to me that I can't just necessarily sort of fight against racism. I also have to ensure that our young people are growing up and being taught what racism looks like, so they can not contribute to it, so that they can be a part of efforts to eliminate it, so they can literally grow up and desire an equitable and just society.
I think that's so important, and that goes hand in hand with my next question perfectly. We're living in a time when book bans are a reality, with books that touch on topics such as racism and Black history being targeted. What is your reaction to that as an author and a person, and does it influence any of your decision making as an author?
I've had 8 different books that have been banned, and to think that a book that seeks to convey racial equality, or a book that seeks to document when people in the past have conveyed that a particular racial group is inferior, to ban a book that says those ideas of racial hierarchy, or those policies that are excluding people, are wrong. To ban that type of book really sort of shows where we are at. It shows more actually about the book banner than it actually does the book.
What are some of those things that you think are important to notice or keep in mind when trying to be actively anti-racist? Like, what are some things that you hear in your research or in your conversations with people that people tend to conflate or use as excuses of, oh, well, that's not racist, or that person's not racist, or I'm not racist?
But it is certainly the case that people think that their identity makes it such that they can't be racist or they're not racist. And frankly, it doesn't really matter. None of that really matters. People from all walks of life, all political ideologies, people who have different types of relationships with different racial groups can also be racist. There's so much more to being racist than putting up a white only sign or calling someone the N-word, because those are two of the most obvious signs for people. But there's also another obvious sign of racism in an institution or in a community, and that's racial disparities. And so when we see racial inequities, what we may not be seeing behind those racial inequities are racist policies and practices, but they're there. And that's the reason why those inequities exist, not because some racial group is inferior.
100%. Absolutely agree. And I'm curious to know whether you think that having books like the ones that you write, books that tell our history, books that tell us where we've come from and kind of where we're going, if you think those can help us reshape our realities and help reduce those inequalities.
I do, because if, for instance, you believe that particular people are dangerous, and then you learn that those people are being incarcerated at high levels or even deported at high levels, you're going to think that's a good thing because those quote unquote people are so dangerous. So you're going to ultimately support racial injustice because you literally don't realize that no racial group is dangerous or more violent or more criminal-like than another racial group. And so that's why learning that we're actually equal, if actually learning all these ideas that teach us to attach particular behaviors to skin color, and so we can unlearn those ideas, is absolutely critical.
So you're saying to unlearn what society has taught us over the years, we must learn what a lot of these books that are currently being banned are teaching.
Exactly. They're banning them for a reason.
You can find more information about Dr. Kendi and his publications on his website, ibramxkendi.com. And in U.S. news, President Donald Trump is facing criticism from both sides of the aisle over a plan for his administration to accept a luxury jet from Qatar. Over the weekend, Trump announced plans for the Defense Department to accept the 747 aircraft, worth $400 million. Trump says it would temporarily replace Air Force One. However, the move has raised ethical questions as well as concerns for potential security risks. And Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. clashed with lawmakers during a heated hearing over his views on vaccines and the cuts to the agency. Protesters briefly interrupted the event, shouting as Kennedy delivered testimony. As several measles outbreaks impact parts of the country, Kennedy seemed to suggest that the measles vaccine is unsafe, despite decades of evidence that the shot is safe and effective. In a contrary turn of events, though, he did say he would, quote, probably vaccinate his kids against measles, but added, quote, my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. And the Trump administration got the green light to start banning transgender service members in the military. The Supreme Court issued that ruling earlier this week. At least 1,000 people will be discharged to abide by the ban, and officials expect that number to grow. Kara Corcoran, a former Colorado resident and current U.S. infantry officer, is among the transgender service members that will soon be forced out.
I'm not going to voluntarily separate. I will involuntarily separate because a group, a board will have to look me straight in the eye and tell me that I am not fit to fight and serve this country when I have proven that time and time again. It hurts to know that, you have service members who are ready and willing, able to lay down their lives for this country, and we're tossing them to the street for no actual reason.
Corcoran wanted to stress that her views are her own and they don't reflect the Department of Defense or U.S. Army. Eric and Lyle Menendez, the brothers who killed their parents in a high-profile 1989 case, could soon be released from prison. This week, an LA judge reduced their sentences from life without parole to 50 years to life. They're now eligible for parole and have already served over 30 years. The brothers' defense attorneys argued they killed their parents in an act of self-defense after years of being sexually abused by their father. Prosecutors claimed they killed their parents for a multi-million-dollar inheritance. And in international news, the U.S. and China have agreed to roll back some tariffs temporarily. President Trump described the developments as a, quote, total reset. For the next 90 days, the U.S. has agreed to reduce its 145% tariff on China to 30%, and China is cutting its 125% tariffs to 10%. Those are still historically high rates and costs that are likely to be passed on to consumers. And the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening as Israel continues to block food, fuel, medicine, and other supplies from entering the territory. Israel says this 10-week-long blockade is meant to pressure Hamas to release its remaining hostages. And meanwhile, this week, the militant group released its final living U.S. hostage, Adnan Alexander, a 21-year-old Israeli-American soldier. The militant group says it released Alexander as a goodwill gesture to revive talks to end the war. In his short time as the new leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Leo has already called for a ceasefire in Gaza and peace in Ukraine. In a recent meeting with the College of Cardinals, the Catholic news agency reports that Pope Leo announced some of the priorities that he will be focusing on during his papacy, including giving love and care to the rejected, inviting Catholics to embrace the missionary spirit of sharing their religion, and returning Christ to the focus of all preaching and teaching. Let's hop into our good news of the week, all Colorado themed. In the midst of complicated and layered immigration challenges, one clinic in Colorado is offering families hope. The Hope Has No Borders nonprofit offers an asylum clinic about 2 times a month, assisting migrant families to correctly fill out their asylum applications and navigate ongoing changes to immigration policies under the Trump administration. The nonprofit has helped fill out nearly 700 asylum applications, but because many applications contain multiple family members, this means the organization has helped thousands of people. And one initiative, also in Colorado, is working to take down learning barriers for children in underserved communities through vision. As part of the No Vision Left Behind program, around 50 students at the Stevens Elementary School in Wheat Ridge received comprehensive eye exams and glasses for free. The program is a partnership between Jeffco Public Schools and the I Love Care Optometrist Clinic. And the Colorado RattleCam is back for its 2nd year with the goal to learn more about the behavior of mega den full of rattlesnakes in their natural habitat and inspire people to become scientists from the comfort of their own homes. Researchers say the 24/7 live-streamed camera and the interactive chat alongside it play an important role encouraging people to learn more about snakes and overcome their fears while joining in on scientific discovery by sharing their findings with other snake watchers and researchers. Thank you so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation right here on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.